What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Locked Up with David and Matlock, the safe space for the sports nerd. And today we'll be talking about the Atlanta Hawks and Hawks basketball. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm a huge Hawks fan, and can't wait to get into it. So the Atlanta Hawks currently sit at 4-3, eighth overall in the Eastern Conference, and they are currently on a two-game losing streak. They dropped the last two to the Cavs, 96 to 91, and the New York Knicks, 113 to 108. Two disappointing games. It's really early in the year. You can't make super definitive statements right now. It's just now kind of starting to make a little more sense. I mean, John Collins started the year not looking that great. Now he's starting to kind of get back to his usual self, getting close to the double-double average. He's still at like 17 and 7. But overall, I think the Hawks have most definitely improved. I think if you're going to talk about the Hawks, everyone's talking about the great offseason additions they made in Danilo Gallinari at 3 years, $60 million, and then Bogdan Bogdanovic, 4 years, $64 million. Along with Bogdanovic, they added Rondo, Chris Dunn, Tony Snell, and Clint Capella was traded for last year. So the Hawks have made it known for a while. Travis Slink has said that they want to add veteran presence because they have a lot of young guys. And they said that we've added as many young guys as we want. Now it's time to start getting older, start adding some experience. And I think they really did a good job of doing that. They spent a little much money, but if you're Atlanta, you really have to spend more money to get those appealing free agents, especially in a free agent class like this. I mean, you get Bogdanovic was one of the top guys in this class, I think, and Gallinari was one of probably the best available vets that there was. So I think coming into the year, they really had a good-looking roster. And talk about some of their early season strengths. Trae Young he's really looking like he's having an MVP caliber year. He's averaging 28.6 points a game, 4.1 rebounds, and 9.1 assists per game, and he's the league leader in free throw attempts, with James Harden being the closest trailer at 11.1. Trae is averaging 12.5 free throw attempts a game. So he is definitely maturing before our very eyes. He is growing every day. The fact that he can, if you watch him maneuver around screens, how he does the thing where he puts them in prison, how he snakes around the ball screen waiting for the defender to catch up, he's just gotten so good at it. It's almost like a cheat code watching him get to the free throw line. And if you're a Hawks fan, you really like to see it because it's been a long time since we had like an intelligent player on the Hawks. I mean, I've been a fan since my favorite player growing up was like Joe Johnson, Jamal Crawford, Jay Crossover, Josh Smith, Al Horford. But none of those guys could really manipulate a defense like Trae Young can. And it's really a great treat to watch. I mean, the guy, I can't wait to see what he looks like in his prime. Beyond that, our offense, according to Oddshark, is ranked 4th overall. And the offense has looked really good. It's kind of the last 2 games has been a little suspect, but versus the Brooklyn Nets, I believe we dropped 149 at one point. I mean, we those 2 games we had like an average of like 100 mid 130s, which is insane. Granted, we allowed a lot of points, but the fact that our offense has that firepower in this sort of a league, a shooters league, is definitely very encouraging, especially because we have improved our shooting, which is another strength. We are currently sitting at about like 5th in the league with 14.57 3-point makes per game. That is tremendous, especially because last year we took the most 3-point attempts per game and we made like the worst percentage. So seeing that is definitely a lot more reassuring for Hawks fans after seeing so many bricks for so long. And going beyond shooting, we can talk about adding Clint Capella has been huge for this team because we're still like slightly below league average at defense, but we're like 2 slots below league average versus being the bottom of the league, which is a huge improvement. I mean, in one season, that's a big improvement. Granted, it could be better, but I think Clint Capella and Bruno Fernando he's been looking a little bit better. He's a good rebounder. His offensive game is just not really developing, but he's still young. He's not necessarily the explosive shot blocker I thought he had the potential to be, but he's definitely a good guy to come and just give you some minutes, give Capella a rest. And we still have Okongwu. We haven't seen Okongwu play yet, and I think Onyeka Okongwu was a great draft pick. A lot of people were kind of scratching their heads, but when I look at the Hawks roster, I think Okongwu makes a lot of sense, especially because John isn't a five. I think Okongwu is he's a short five, but he can play the five because he's got kind of that Bam build. He's got long arms. He's pretty solid, and he is a great defender. He was a great defender in college, at least. All right, so among the veterans we added, going on from improved shooting and Capella and improved big rotation, our wing and guard depth is spectacular, especially having gone through the last 2 years where the offense completely just falls off the face of the earth. If Trae Young isn't in the game, we now have Rondo, Bogdanovich, Herter, Solomon Hill, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, Chris Dunn, Brandon Godwin, Tony Snell, and Gallinari. That kind of comprises our main sort of wing rotation. And I gotta say, I mean, when you watch them play, you're like the Hawks are a pretty deep team. Like they can fill out some pretty impressive lineups. I mean, Solomon Hill's been an underrated 3-and-D guy. He can play some solid defense and he can knock down open shots. Cam is kind of our best defender on the wing in that starting rotation. Bogdanovich has kind of struggled a little bit with his shot sometimes, but him and Herter have been amazing off the bench, just adding that sort of spark of shooting off the bench. And Rondo is just going to help this team mature. And we haven't even seen Tony Snell play yet. He's going to be such a good addition for this team, just extra shooting, extra defense, and just more of a veteran presence. I really think the depth of this team has improved so dramatically. Travis Slink has done a great job of improving the depth of this team. He's done a great job of handling talent on this team. I'm really interested to see how he does going forward because it's been a long time since we had some competency in the front office. I mean, we had Danny Ferry for a bit, but then Danny Ferry said some questionable things and then he got moved out of the league. But I mean, Danny Ferry seemed like he had a vision. Now we actually have someone who has a cut and dry plan, who always has his guy whenever there's draft day, and he goes out and gets the guy he wants. I'm really excited to see how it looks moving forward. Now for the weaknesses. I mean, we knew this was going to happen. I mean, this is going to happen when you have a guy like Trae Young on the floor, but defense is still one of our weaknesses. I mean, it's a below league average. Granted, it's improved, but it's still just not at the level of a contender, not even close. Like, to be one of the top perennial playoff teams, it needs to be better. I look at the fact that we're just giving up too many easy buckets. We got bullied by the Cavaliers. Drummond was just bullying our guys. You really wonder why Clint Capella wasn't in the game a little more in the fourth quarter rotation. But he has at least been helping, like, stopping the bleeding on the inside that used to be just a gushing wound the last couple of years. So we've improved, but the defense still just is not that impressive. Also, we have a lack of just generating turnovers. We're at like the bottom of the league in steals. We're at like bottom 5. We only average about 5 steals a game. That's just, in a high-paced game, you need to be clogging up the passing lanes more consistently in the NBA. And, I mean, Cam is I think he's our leading steals leader, or maybe Herter. It's like one of those two, but Cam definitely helps in that regard, but we just not very good at generating turnovers. That will improve, though. I think that will definitely dramatically improve when Chris Dunn, Tony Snell, and Okongwu start getting back into the lineup. Those guys are definitely going to help those defensive numbers tremendously. So for now, it's a problem, but I think it will improve. We'll see how much it improves. And then another weakness I have is big man depth. Not necessarily the talent. I think the talent is really good. Capella, top-notch big man. He was big man for the Rockets. But, I mean, I have some question marks about how healthy is he going to be? How many games is Clint Capella going to be able to play this year? He's had an injury history the last 2 years. He had injury histories coming to the league. So I'm worried to see what happens when Clint Capella goes down, which is where Bruno Fernando and Onyeka Okongwu are going to be very important, because John Collins can't play the 5. He just can't. He really cannot. John Collins has not improved enough on defense for us to be able to say, all right, go run the 5. He can run it for a little bit, but he has the below. He doesn't have a like a outstanding wingspan. He's not a good shot blocker. He's a great rebounder. He's a physical guy, but he really can get bullied. And I think watching Julius Randle just eat this guy really was just kind of a testament to John Collins may not deserve that max money yet. Like he needs to prove more. Like I understand why we didn't sign him to that contract in the offseason. Like some people are like, oh, y'all need to give him his money. And like I love John Collins. I was wearing a John Collins jersey in my last video. He's one of my favorite players that we've had in a long time. He's like watching just a better version of Josh Smith sometimes. I mean, but I just don't know if he's worthy of like a max deal. Like you see De'Aaron Fox getting a max deal. You see Donovan Mitchell getting a max deal. You see these young players getting these max deals, and I'm just like, is John Collins as good? Would if I was looking at like comparing the ability of John Collins to a Donovan Mitchell or De'Aaron Fox, I feel like John Collins is definitely close. I think he has the potential. I think potential wise, he's up there with those guys. But in terms of production, consistency, and being able to produce on both ends, because as a big, you need to be able to produce on defense. I don't know if he's gotten to that level. So in terms of big man depth, Okongwu being healthy is really important. And I think Bruno Fernando, he's not at a place where I'm confident to say he's our backup center. I don't see him being that, because I mean the guy's average. I think he's like the top 2 on the team in rebounds, which is great. Like you're glad to see young guys improving their rebound statistics, but I just don't see him being a steadying presence off the bench for us. And he can be kind of an energy guy, but big man depth is a problem for this team. And going along with that, the depth, we have an injury bug. Rondo has only played 70 plus games once since 2010. Gallinari I think he's played over 70 games like one time in his entire career. Like these are 2 guys who get hurt all the time. Granted, we don't need them throughout the year. We need them for the playoffs, which I think we're definitely being extra careful with them, resting them up, making sure, hey, these guys are going to be available when we actually need them. But these are not people that you can rely on during the regular season. They're just not. And we have Okongwu still hurt. We have Chris Dunn still hurt. We have Snell still hurt. Capella, he could be a ticking time bomb. We honestly have no idea when he gets hurt, because I mean I don't see him playing every game. I see him at least having a stretch where he misses about 8 to 10 games just off of previous knowledge. So that's definitely a huge worry for me. And then my last weakness for this team is probably coaching, and it's nothing against Lloyd Pierce. I think Lloyd Pierce has done a great job developing the young guys, getting the young guys confidence, and getting used to the league and the pace. There's definitely been some growing pains, but I mean, it's just got to get this team should be contending in the middle of the pack in the playoff hunt. Like they should be like competing for a 4th to a 6th seed, I think. And I'm interested to see how he works with the rotations. I mean, granted, he hasn't been working with the full roster. I'm going to give him some leeway. They did add Nate McMillan to the coaching staff, so I think Lloyd has definitely improved. I mean, the shooting's improved, the offense has improved, the defense has improved. So I think personnel was definitely a big thing for him. But again, we lost to the Cavaliers. We lost to New York Knicks. Like, we were down people, but we're at home and we're losing to the Knicks. It's not a good look if we're trying to be in that sort of upper echelon in the Eastern Conference, which we can be, which we most definitely can be. So I think those are my biggest weaknesses for the team. Now for some big surprises for this year for the team. One surprise I think is DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter has improved so much. I mean, he is shooting lights out right now. He's averaging 16 points a game, almost 7 rebounds with 2 assists on 53% shooting and 48.6 from 3-point range. He is shooting better from 3-point range than most NBA players are shooting from the field. Like, that is he is cash money on an open 3-pointer. Like, if I'm in a clutch situation, get DeAndre Hunter the ball. And I think that's why we drafted him, because we knew that he had the championship pedigree at UVA. He hit those big shots versus Texas Tech in that game, and he was known for being a guy who could get you stops, who could play good team defense, who could hit open threes. He was a great stretch. He was a great stretch forward, versatile player who could who could guard through all 5 positions on the court. He's long enough to do it, and I think DeAndre Hunter is just going to keep getting better with his shot creating ability. His shot creating ability has improved. If you watch, some of his dribble creations are looking a lot more smooth. He's getting to the rack. He just looks so much more confident now. And if he starts blossoming, this team is dangerous as hell. And it's even more dangerous if Cam Reddish can start having that sort of upward growth. And I look at this team and the biggest allure of this team has always been the young talent. It is so much fun. It has been so much fun over the past couple years. Even when we sucked so bad, you're just like, they've got something here. I mean, Trae Young was slept on. He was underrated. Everyone was crapping on the Hawks for making that trade with Luka Doncic, but I think the trade worked for both people. I just don't see Luka necessarily fitting into the culture as well as Trae Young does in Atlanta. I mean, let's be honest, there is a culture sort of deal in Atlanta. I mean, it just is. And I don't know how a European guy like Luka Doncic is going to just come into the South and just have a great connection with the fan base like Trae Young does. Like, Trae Young is a staple in Atlanta right now. But for the surprises, DeAndre Hunter, he has been great. He's playing great basketball. I hope he keeps it up. I mean, we're going to inevitably see those shooting numbers come down a little bit. Maybe not. Hope if they stay up, that'd be even better. But they're probably going to start coming back down to earth. He might start shooting about I say he's going to finish the year shooting about 43, 44%, which is a big drop from 48.6. But I'm just being realistic. If he keeps it at 45, he's had an amazing season. If he keeps the field goal percentage at 49 to 50, he's having an amazing season, especially with how what the shot types are looking like in the NBA now. It's a lot of threes. It's a lot of jump shots. It's a lot of getting to the rim. It's a lot of contested threes. And if he's shooting like that, he is a premier player in this league. And off of shooting, the Hawks are 4th in 3-point makes at 14.5 a game. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we were garbage. Oh my God, we were so bad at shooting threes last year. Like, literally Lloyd's offense last year was give Trae Young the basketball and drive and kick it out for a 3 and just watch someone brick it off the side of the billboard on the highway, like I-85. Like, it was so bad watching that offense operate and you would see the pick and roll game. You're like, oh, that looks so good. And you're like, if we could just be hitting these threes, we're a dangerous team. But they just wouldn't fall. They were young guys. So I think now that offensive scheme, it looks more dangerous because we have shooters. We have Bogdanovich. We have Gallinari. We have Trae Young. John Collins is shooting the 3 better. Cam Reddish can shoot. DeAndre Hunter is splashing it. I mean, we have shooters. We have shooters everywhere. I mean, every lineup we have has at least 2 guys where you cannot take your eyes off of them, which is why I'm saying this team could be way better than what it has been. Like, they can exceed a lot of people's expectations this year. I think just a little surprised Nathan Knight in that Grizzlies game. You're just like, I don't even know who this guy is. I think he's from William and Mary. And then you watch him play, you're like, okay, he can be a nice little energy guy off the bench. I mean, just those little the Hawks' 'ability to evaluate talent, like Brandon Goodwin, such a good player. I mean, for what we get with him, for a 6'0" point guard off the bench, he has always been. I always thought he was a solid player. And then another surprise is Herter coming off the bench, and his numbers haven't dipped too much. I mean, he's still averaging 11.4. Last year he averaged about 12.5, something like that. He's averaging 11.4, 2.9 assists, 3.1 rebounds. He's been playing pretty well, and he's shooting the ball pretty well this year. And him and Bogdanovich off the bench just looks really good. And I'm excited to see how we use him going forward. I'm excited to see his continued improvement. I still think this kid has a decent amount of potential. We all were like, oh, he's going to be the next Clay. I think that was just too much to put on his shoulders. He's not going to be. Clay is just like kind of one of those generational talents, man. But he can be a guy like Davis Bertans, just coming in and just stroke some threes. Like, if he just has the confidence, he's just going to unload on you. And you need those guys in the NBA. You need those Joe Harrises. You need those Bertans. You need those guys who can hit those open threes off the bench. And I think he provides that. And I think he could be sort of that X factor player if we're in the playoffs. All right, so kind of covering my disappointments for the year so far. Granted, we're only 7 games in. It's not that much, but I need content, so we're going to talk about it. Cam Reddish is shooting 37% from the field, and he's averaging 10 points, 4.7 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and averaging a steal a game. So his numbers haven't dropped off like at all, pretty much. He's basically still his rookie year player. He's definitely not the first 2 months of his rookie year Cam Reddish. He's still kind of the Cam Reddish that we would consistently see with a little bit of the potential sprinkled in there. I mean, you saw the fourth quarter versus the Nets. You're like, if him and DeAndre Hunter are playing like this, it is over. It is over because they look like young Kawhi and Paul George out there sometimes because those guys are long. They play good defense. If Cam has that shot creating ability, if he masters that, it's over. This team will have Trae Young, John Collins, Capella, DeAndre Hunter, and Cam Reddish in their starting five. And if Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter are those guys, if they can unlock that potential, I'm telling you, it's over. Like, I'm being a fan. I'm being 100% a fan right now, but who wants to play against that? You're playing against a guy who has the physical build of Paul George, who every player who's played against him in high school said, yeah, he's the best guy I've ever played against. Anthony Edwards, the number one pick. You look at the video of him and all those guys, I think it's Tyrese Maxey and the guy who plays at LSU right now, they're sitting around, they're like, who's the best player you played against? And he's like, yeah, Cam put a 50-piece on me. If we get that guy, it's over. I'm telling you right now, we will be a perennial playoff team, we'll be a contender if that guy and DeAndre Hunter reach their max potential. But right now, he's just not there. His shot choice needs to improve. He needs to be a little more aggressive, but also it's kind of hard to do that when we're so deep. There's so many people who are trying to get touches. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be just that 3-and-D wing. He needs to be he's going to be an off the dribble guy. He can spot up and shoot. He has that ability to, but I don't think that's his game because he looks so much better when he's creating for himself, when he's hitting those little step back mid-rangers or those step back threes. You see the ability when how he pulls the ball back. You're just like, you see that little flare and you're just like, ooh. I need to see more. I need to see more from him, but I'm a little disappointed with this start. And then another disappointment is injuries. It's going to happen. Especially with the veterans we got, it's just bound to happen. Okongwu's foot injury was definitely not a big deal. We're just being extra careful with him. I really want to see him play. I really think he's going to be so good for this team. I'm really excited to see him suit up. But it's definitely not fun seeing so many of the guys we acquired, like Snell, Chris Dunn, Okongwu, like not even suit up a game yet. We're 7 games in. Again, I know it's not that long into the season, but it's just, I want to see them play. I'm being a fan. I want to see content. But yeah, so my prediction for this team, I'm going to make some early predictions just so I can say I did it, so I won't be hounded about it later. I see this team being, if I'm being a glass half full guy, I see this being a 6th or 5th seed. If I'm being a glass half empty guy, I'm saying we're an 8th seed or we're playing in the play-in tournament. I mean, I think we might end up being in the play-in tournament regardless, but I could see, right now we're currently 8th. I don't know if the Knicks and the Cavs are going to be able to keep it up. They could. They really could. They don't look that bad. I expect the Cavs to keep it up more than the Knicks. I don't see the Knicks keeping it up. But who knows? I think the Hawks will be in the conversation for the 4th, 5th seed, and I think Trae Young will be in the MVP conversation. He has to be. I think he really needs to be considered for it. Just looking at how much that guy does for his team, the ball is always in his hands. He needs to be considered for it. So those are my predictions. Tonight, the Hawks play the Charlotte Hornets at 7:30. FanDuel's odds have the Hawks at -255, with the over being 231.5. If you want to make some money, I would say bet the over, baby. Smash that over. And can't wait to see more Hawks basketball. Can't wait to talk more Hawks basketball throughout the year. This has been another episode. See you guys later. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It'd be really nice to grow my audience. And check out my other videos. There'll be new content coming out on the Falcons later on this week. And we will be talking about playoff football. So stay tuned.
Honest shit, you can keep me up your pieces. You need to live, live, live,